This is the Unstarving Musician podcast. I'm your host, Robonzo. The podcast features conversations with me, indie music artists, and industry professionals, and it's all intended to help other indie music artists be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Well, hello, and thank you for joining me, indie music lovers, fans, creators. I am so appreciative of you being here to hear me talk again and to hear my guests, to be in your earbuds, on your speakers. Thank you. I am grateful. So look, if you love what I do here on the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the many ways that you can show your love and support for the Unstarving Musician. Again, just visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to be part of that. Sylvia Rose Novak is on the show today. She joins me for a round 2 conversation with our video cameras on. We did the Zoom thing, and she spoke to me whilst sitting in the great outdoors on a beautiful Alabama day. Consequently, there are lots of birds and nature sounds in the background, but I thought it was kind of fun. I think a bee even gets after her at one point. We recorded in November of last year, 2020, and at that time I was talking to her about her then latest release while she was hard at work on another new release, which we also talk about. The audio is a little bit choppy, compliments of remote recording technology, but you'll get by. I promise it's not that bad. But anyway, forgive me for that. Before we get into my conversation with Sylvia, I want to give a quick shout-out to Tract Music for featuring my new song, New Gods Part 2, as the exclusive platform where you can stream the song. That is very cool. If you're a fan of independent music, Tract is a great music discovery platform, and for the musicians and recording artists among you, it's also a recording and collaborative platform that is changing the way musicians create and share music. So check it out at tractmusic.com, and that's Tract without an E, TRACKD, or download the Tract app for iPhone and check out my new song, New Gods Part 2. So yeah, Sylvia Rose and I, in this conversation we talk about her departure from folk to rock and her ongoing push toward a harder rock sound. She also shares her personal experience living with ADHD and bipolar disorder, and I ask her about her many tattoos, how she gets out of her own head, and why she thinks some musicians struggle to get good gigs or the gigs that they want. A question I love asking artists here on the podcast. And back to her forthcoming album or EP, she tells me it's got a punk rock sensibility, which sounds a little oxymoronish, right? Or maybe I guess it is, but who cares? It's independent rock music, man. It can have punk rock sensibility, and that's kind of what we're all about here on the Unstarving Musician, right? Not just punk rock sensibility, but just that whole independent music thing, right? Do what makes you happy, Sylvia Rose. I actually like her new sound, and I think I'm gonna enjoy the newer new sound as well. I really enjoy speaking with her. You should definitely check out our first conversation for the podcast, which is episode 80. I will put a link in the show notes, but you can also search on unstarvingmusician.com, episode 80. But I hope one day I'll get to see her and her band play live. I bet you she's a hoot in concert, and I know she's talented. All right, here is me and Sylvia Rose Novak.
There we go.
Hey there.
Hey.
Hey, look at you outside, too.
Yes, it's beautiful in Alabama.
I spoke to another Alabaman today, and I was looking over my notes from our last conversation, and I mentioned him then, too, but Abe Partridge.
I know Abe.
Yeah. How long have you known him?
I met Abe at the Dripping Springs Songwriters Festival I think it was the first year I went, so it was 2016.
Okay. Maybe he's in my notes because we talked about him. I talked to Abe, before I spoke with you, but anyway, what a coincidence.
Right.
So I listened to the whole album a couple times last time we spoke around that time. Love it. And I just started listening to it again. Sounds great. I really like it. I'm going to listen to it some more tonight. So kudos.
Thank you. That was the one that came out in May, right? The
last
one.
2 days before my birthday. I didn't even know, I don't think.
So weird to talk about it because we're in the process of recording my 5th album, and it's nothing happened with that one. Well, I mean, there was good press, but we didn't get to tour it because of the pandemic. So it's like when people are like, I listened to the record, I'm like, it's not out yet. And then I'm like, oh, wait, right. Another one. I forgot about that. I did that.
Yeah. All right. Wow. So you have another one coming out when, did you say?
Hopefully sometime next year. We're going to wrap. We're almost done with recording. We only have like 1.5 songs left to do.
Cool. And where are you doing that?
Boutwell Studios, with Brad Lyons, the same place we did Bad Luck.
Should be good then, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very different. It's a huge departure. It's a lot more rock forward, like post-punk rock, not like Americana rock.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be different.
How do you categorize Bad Luck?
I think it's definitely, I mean, it's weird. I talked to another podcast host about it, and it was he basically was like, Bad Luck is odd because it kind of splits the difference like more extremely than Someone Else's War. Like Someone Else's War was just start to finish an Americana record, and then Bad Luck is like half like country and half rock. It's like not a lot of transitory tracks, and I did that on purpose because I knew this next record was going to be more like the rock tracks on Bad Luck, but then heavier.
Oh, how clever you are. I'm going to like it, I'm sure, because I'm all for the harder edge.
Oh, good. Okay. And that's been interesting, trying to figure out how people are going to react to that. There is some, it's been mostly positive, but I've had a few people like,
who have heard what, demos or of the new one, you mean?
No, who haven't heard any of it, but who I've told them like what it's, like it's getting heavier from Bad Luck. And they're like, oh.
Poo-pooing it already?
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be cool. I mean, there's certainly the obvious risk that you'll lose some people, but obviously you'll gain some new folks.
Right. And it's more in line with what I want to do. So it works out.
Hey, man, that's the only thing that's going to keep you going if you're happy. So
Exactly.
I'm all for it. Non-related, practically non sequitur, but how many cats do you have?
I don't have any cats. I just love them.
So I saw it maybe on Instagram. You had this black and white cat.
That's Max. He's the barn cat. So he's out at the barn where I ride and teach lessons, and he is wonderful. I love him.
He's a working cat.
He tries to be. He's a little sociopath. He doesn't actually kill. Well, he kills like the rats and the snakes, but he doesn't eat them. He's a 15-pound pet for all of the girls at the barn, and then he just like finds field mice and kills them and lines them up in the barn to as a gift.
Yes.
Like, yeah, okay, you do kind of do your job, but I've also watched him watch a rat run across the aisle, and he just kind of looked at me like, what do you want me to, like, I'm full.
I'm kind of busy right now.
Yeah. So
that's funny. So did you say he's 15 pounds?
He has to be. He's huge.
So we have about a 15-pound cat. He's he knows how to kill stuff, but I don't know if he'd know what to do with a rat. Maybe he would. He's killed a bat recently, and all kinds of bugs and things, but he's an indoor cat, so I mentioned that. But I don't know if I told you this, and I saw the cat, and I'm like, okay, she's going to appreciate the story, I think. It's not a long one, but my cat freaking hates when I sing. Hates it. And I'm like, okay, my goal in life is to sing well enough now that he doesn't hate it. But I've decided that he thinks I'm in some sort of distress because so I finished the recording of my song, and I ran it by a lot of people, so I know the singing's not horrible. He's heard the recording, and he gets the same distressed look on his face.
Maybe he's just a snob.
I don't know. Maybe he's telling me to stay in drumming and podcasting and forget the singing. I'm not sure.
I don't know. My mom has a nice voice, and she would sing, and she had this old tabby cat named Aggie who would sit on her chest, and every time she'd start to sing, Aggie would reach her little paw up and just go and just put her little paw up for her mouth to try to shut her up.
Mine's a tabby. Maybe there's a correlation here.
Maybe they're just all prog, all instrumental, no vocals.
So besides, or maybe you can be a little more granular, detailed about the differences. It doesn't have to be so much about the music, maybe about the recording, but what other differences are there, or can I expect on the new album from Bad Luck?
Oh, they're huge. So I wrote everything on Bad Luck was written on a standard tuned guitar. Everything on this new album, it's going to be an eponymous record, hopefully, or we're just going to we're affectionately calling it 5, because I'm very creative. But I tuned my guitar down a half step.
Okay.
So a lot of stuff is out of flat keys. And to complement that, I had a bass kind of built for me or put together that is also down a half step, but it's also tuned like a 5-string bass without the highest string. So everything's a lot like lower, heavier, growlier, darker. But with a lot of pop punk sensibility, it's interesting. Like I carry the theme of having like kind of dark and vague lyrics, but a lot more major keys. Like it's really sneaky. Like there's a lot of stuff on this record, whereas the last one, when it was dark and heavy, it was dark and heavy. But there are a lot of tracks on this one where the lyrics are like really serious. They're just true, like fun rock songs with like multiple guitar layers and like huge. We really had Blake's the drummer, step out of his box on this stuff. I mean, like he nailed it. And we had him, really just tune in and crank out and get a little bit wild and nasty with it. Like, I think he's broken like 2 snares and like 4 sets of
That's funny.
It's just, and the recording process, instead of doing the like very country Americana, like band in a room, all one take thing, like we've done it like early 2000s rock style, where we get the arrangement and then we get the drums and then the guitars and then the bass and then the vocals, and everything is separate. And there's a lot of breakdown and setup between each one.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And I liked it.
As a drummer, so the first thing I noticed about not the first thing, but one of the first things I noticed on your album is the tuning of his snare drum. And I noticed it because it is a tuning I never use, but I hear a lot. It's, that warm sort of deep tone. And so now that you're talking about his more like aggressive drumming that you've coaxed him into, I'm wondering, is the tuning different for this one to your knowledge, or is it similar?
Well, it's different because we have a drum tech and like a co-engineer on this record named Daniel, who is amazing, and he's working with Brad. And Brad and Daniel are both drummers. So Brad, my producer and engineer, is a drummer. And so he kind of helped. He kind of got the drum sound for the record last time, and we kept it. This time, the tuning for every drum and the miking for the kit and the choice of snare and the choice of cymbals is specific to each song.
Oh, nice.
Like, everything is song by song.
But a lot of fucking work, it sounds like.
Oh, God. Like, setting up drums takes like 2 hours. There's just a lot of snare. Hit the snare in the hat. Nope. Okay, just snare and kick. Nope. Okay, go move every mic by 6 inches. Okay, hit the snare. Not that snare. Let's try a different snare. But it's, the results are like, I wish I'd known that you could do this. I don't know. I wish every band knew that you could do this. You can take the time.
Sure.
And like that's the magic. I thought the magic just happened, but no, it's meticulous drum tuning.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find, or I would be, my lifetime, find an engineer or producer that doesn't like put initial focus on the drums and building around that. So I can see that. And I'm sure that I don't have a lot of studio experience. In fact, my, traditional studio experience goes many years back. And, but I imagine as an artist over the years, I'm just imagining again, but you may find that this whole magic that you're experiencing now, that maybe someday you're going to be like, you know what, let's just go in and record it, not fuck around with all the retuning on everything,
Yeah, that'll be, but that's like for a different record. And that's kind of, this album I was doing the kind of straight Americana thing. And, I had some heavier rock songs, and I really like rock music. That's kind of my deal. But I also like, I like the songwriters. I really appreciate good lyricism. And I kind of just decided that I was going to, from the word go, be an artist who didn't do one thing.
Why not?
I don't know. It's like, I really am excited to make this rock record, but if I want to put out a pop song in 5 years, I don't want people to think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, because that can be fun, and it doesn't mean I'm going to make a pop record. Or if I want to go write another country song, I don't want it to be, we get like super focused on genre label.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like everything ends up kind of sounding stale and very, very much the same.
Sure.
And it's like people hear, oh, okay, well, she's moving toward rock now. Yeah, like I'm going to be a rock band. I have a rock band. But if I put out a country song, I don't want people to go, oh, she's going back to doing country. Like, no, it's one song. Just felt like it.
That's exactly what I'll say. But then you'll show us right over the years. I read something on your Twitter feed a short while ago, and I could relate to it, but I wanted you to say anything that comes to mind about it. And that is, you said, I like running because it allows me to disassociate with purpose.
Yeah, I check out a lot. That's my go-to move for coping. And it's not, I see a therapist and it's not healthy, but I learned, I think, in my adult life that not everybody just stops hearing what's going on around them.
Yeah.
And like, just really just, like somebody can be talking to me and I can be looking them dead in the face and I can absolutely not hear a single word that comes out of their mouth after their first sentence.
It happens.
Because I daydream, like, I'm like, okay, brain, this is really important. And my brain's like, is it? And then we just go somewhere else.
My wife is, I was going to say she's pretty amazing because she has to say something at least twice to me before I hear it. And it's not because I'm not hanging on her every word.
You can't help it. But I just, through people's frustration, that's not actually like typical.
Yeah.
Maybe of creative types, I'm not sure. But my husband is like, have you done this yet? And I'm like, done what? He's like, that thing I told you that was sitting in your, like, you have had this email sitting in your inbox for 3 weeks. And I'm like, I didn't know you sent that. And he was like, we talked about it. I was like, did we? I'm sorry. Oops, okay.
Yeah, I actually think it's kind of common as I don't think I was this way all my life, but I've tried in more recent years to be a better listener because I appreciate it, when anyone listens to me, of course, but I have a friend I love dearly that I got to see this week, and when I talk, I can see the eyes move and he goes somewhere else really quick, but he's pretty good about trying to check back in, which I appreciate. But you can kind of tell when there's disinterest, it's like, it's all right. It wasn't that interesting, I guess, but.
It's so strange though, because mine doesn't stem from a disinterest. Somebody can be telling me something insanely interesting, like super useful. I do it when I read too. Like I'll read like I got diagnosed with adult ADHD several years ago and was like that, like read half a page. And I know I read it, but I don't remember anything I read.
Yeah.
But like, I feel so bad because people will be telling me important and interesting things. And it's just like, my brain's like, no, night. And I'm like, no, come on. Really sorry, but I've been working on it actively. But running allows me to kind of do that. Like it focuses it. Like here's like a 30 to 45 minute span of time where I'm allowed to just go not be aware of my surroundings, which is not safe. I get that.
Depends if you have, to me, I get the joy of running with music in your ears. And I do it sometimes, and I don't, it's just funny. I wanted to ask you about what you put on Twitter about running, because I actually ran today and I haven't been running much at all. I have my dog with me, the running I've done in the last year has been like interval. So, 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off, 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off, which is kind of a different thing, but I still get the same, thing. I think, like you said, a bit of disassociation, but I know if I'm listening to anything, be it music or a podcast or something, I'm probably just way better off not doing, and being a little more focused, especially if I have the dog with me, which I did today. So
yeah, I do. I am not disciplined enough for intervals. I just go run like 4 quick-ish miles.
That's good.
I don't clock myself though. I don't like track my distance. I just have a variety of loops that are somewhere between like 3.7 and 4.6 miles. And I just go and make random turns. And then when I get home, I look at how far I ran.
Yeah, and you feel good.
Instead of checking out, I just put music on and I'm like, am I turning left or am I turning right or am I going straight?
Since we're talking about this, I was like, I meant to ask you before we started, and if you don't want to talk about it, it's totally fine. But you mentioned ADHD, and I also read, I guess, on your Twitter somewhere, and you gave an example, but I just picked up the first part. You said, for me, living with bipolar disorder and ADHD is largely like this. And you went on to sort of describe a conversation that happens and where your head goes. And I was wondering, I have another guest who was back on the podcast recently, and he struggles with depression, and he confessed to me recently. It wasn't a confession, but he told me recently he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was wondering if you'd mind talking about that, just what it's been in your life, and the hopes that maybe it would help somebody else who deals with it or thinks they might be.
Yeah, it's interesting because typically I was diagnosed in my teens because I have a family history of it and my mom recognized it. So I didn't have to live a long time wondering why I functioned like emotionally differently or like neurologically differently than other people. I was kind of aware, and that was really great because it gave me more space and like the tools to cope with it. I also am a lot more like hypomanic than depressive. I don't really have depressive episodes, knock on wood. But
Good.
my hypomania is odd, and I've had to learn to like it creates a lot of like impulse control issues, and just a lot of like obsessive kind of like borderline paranoia that I've had to become tremendously sensitive to so I don't let it consume me. And it's tough. I mean, you feel like a lunatic, and I make jokes. I'm like, yeah, I'm crazy. It's fine. But, if anybody else were to like call me crazy, I'd be pretty upset, I guess. It's one of those things where I tried for a long time to pretend I didn't have it, or to pretend that all of my emotion, like anytime I had an atypical outburst or an atypical emotional response or like mild auditory or visual hallucination, I would try to pretend it was something else. But recently-ish, within the last few years, I was like, okay, like it's time to admit out loud to people that you do have bipolar disorder. You are largely hypomanic. And I mean, it is what it is. You're working on it. You do cognitive therapy. And the thing about it is bipolar disorder is really hard to medicate, especially when you have a more manic type, because I've been on antidepressants and they made me actually psychotic. To a point where I don't remember several days and had to be like,
not good,
taken to a hospital.
Yeah.
So I've been working on dealing with it. Like I do a lot of yoga. I run, I write songs, I scream at traffic. It's not healthy, but it helps.
It's therapy.
It's therapy. It's one of those things where it can be sneaky because it can be crippling for a lot of people. But then there are people I know like me who it's not, but it's still, that something's not right. And there are times when it's glaringly apparent than others.
Do you see it as something that's maybe hindering you or affecting others, or some combination of the two? Or is there something else that is internally concerning for you about it?
I have days where I feel a little bit guilty. Like I feel like a burden on my parents because of the choice I've made to be an artist, or, and I feel like I wouldn't have made these decisions, all of them so impulsive if I were more like emotionally typical or like neurologically typical. And there are a lot of like shame spirals that I can go down, or like, oh, I yelled at my husband for something he didn't do because I was feeling punchy, because I feel crazy, because I haven't gone for a run in a week because my knees hurt. And it's kind of learning to apologize and work on the behavior instead of just getting sucked into that guilt and shame spiral, because that I've learned that feeds it. Like, feeling bad for myself for doing something shitty to somebody, even unintentionally, is not the answer. And I spent a lot of my teens and early 20s being the victim of my own decisions. And even though they were colored by mental illness, they were still my choices. And I owned no accountability, really. And a lot of that was not being willing to admit that I was mentally ill. Even though I was diagnosed multiple times on paper, is like just completely in denial about it. But I think that ownership has helped me a lot, but I still do carry around a little bit of guilt. And then I try to work through it for certain outbursts or choices, or, sometimes I'm not the most financially responsible person in the world, decided to make an album during a pandemic, stuff like that. Out of work, can't tour, let's dump money into something. Oh, how are we going to eat this week? I don't know, beats me. Like, and it does bug me, but.
And now a quick word from our affiliate partner, and then back to the interview. This episode is powered by Bandzoogle, the most effective platform for musicians and bands to build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Powering over 55,000 websites, Bandzoogle features powerful design options, a commission-free store to sell merch, music, and tickets, a built-in mailing list tool, detailed fan data, integrations with social networks, and more. Plans start at just $8.29 a month, which includes a free custom domain name. You, indie musician, can try it out for free at bandzoogle.com. And you can use the promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year of any plan. Again, that's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you have some tools you're acquiring right now to deal with, to cope with it, and not let yourself feel any of the bad stuff that you talked about, and that's great. So
being open, like actually being willing to answer these questions and talk about it, is like one of the number one most healing things. So like if anybody or listens, has like anything like emotionally, psychologically, neurologically atypical, like saying it out loud has a lot of power.
Yeah, that's good tip. And I
wrong.
Say again.
Oh, and making it not feel like it's something wrong or bad or other or different. It just is.
Sure. Maybe I hear there's this podcaster I listen to who has a huge library of lectures and meditations, and she talks about forgiving ourselves, and so maybe that's part of the deal that you're describing. Yeah. So that's good. Sorry, I'm wearing these big cans, by the way. I forgot we were going to be here on camera. I'm just normally put in some in-ears, so I don't look quite as dorky. Like you care, right?
Yeah, I don't even use headphones because I'm deaf in my left ear.
Really? Wow. Gunfire? So, I'm just kidding.
No, car accident.
Oh no.
Yeah, 10 years used to it.
Wow.
By now. Like for stuff like this, for like podcasting, like I can do it for like exercise and music. I'm used to hearing mono, but when people are talking, it just freaks me out. It's like there's one voice like right here.
Oh yeah, and a headphone. Yeah. Oh wow. All right. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I hope. I mean, it actually helps me to talk about it. I don't. Well, I arguably have some attention issues, but I have never been diagnosed with anything like bipolar disorder. But I have had having talked to other people, what I would consider mild episodes of depression in my life, and very infrequent. So I've become kind of interested in the different things that people deal with, and particularly artists, because I'm talking with, well, yeah, I guess I am. It's the act of meeting so many new musicians because of the podcast. Before, when I was performing a lot, it was always locally. So I'd meet people now and again, of course, but I was also spending much of my time with the same people. So I think byproduct of meeting so many new musicians and discovering how many, of us or of you, struggle with, either depression or have had some other thing. I think it's kind of helpful to talk about. And a lot of this stuff that has nothing to do with mental health is helpful to me. So I just assume it'll be helpful to others. So I do appreciate it though a lot. How are you doing on time?
Actually, I'm great. I got nothing. I'm going to do some yoga after this and then drink some wine. I don't know. I've got nothing. But I don't know. I think it's hugely important. I think that's great that you bring that up because so many artists take their own lives. I mean, and I think that talking about it is the first step in making that not happen.
Yeah, sure. It's something that, like you're bringing up, and one of my other guests, the one I was referring to who has struggled with depression and bipolar disorder, he said his biggest fear, I think because he's been through recovery programs as well for substance abuse, that he just kind of has a library, or a contact list of people who struggle with things like depression. And his biggest fear was, that people might do drastic things, maybe take their lives during this time. That's just, especially artists, during this time that the world can feel a little upheaved. So yeah, I guess it's worth talking about for sure. Maybe this is a good follow-up question. Maybe I don't think it's that I didn't notice before from seeing pictures of you, but I was watching a YouTube video of you, which I'm going to ask you about as well. But I was noticing your tattoos, which I hadn't noticed before. So my impression was you have several. I don't know if you really have that many, but you have some pretty good sized ones. And I just wanted to know, I don't have a single tattoo, for better or worse, but so I'm just kind of curious, seeing the ones that you have, what some of the stories are behind them, or any of your favorite ones, or anything you have to tell about them.
Yeah, oh God, I have a ton. And that, they're all most of them are on my arms. My back is covered and I have one on my thigh. It's a big one. And it's my favorite one. The one I have on my thigh, is a traditional style tattoo of a horse head. And it's my horse, Rowan, stylized tattoo. He's a little buckskin horse, so he's yellow with a black mane and tail and little white streaks in his mane, and it's his little face. And the banner under it says "Stay Gold" because I call him my golden boy because he's yellow. It's so dumb, but I love it. Rowan is the love of my life. I will say that in front of my husband. He will stare at me sideways, but yeah, Rowan is the love of my life. And has made this year. I mean, every time I get bummed out about the fact that we can't tour, we had to cancel a whole album tour. I'm like, well, I get to ride my horse 4 days a week. I get to go love on that dumb, chunky, yellow pony of mine, and then I feel better. So that's my favorite. And it's pretty big. I'm not a big person, so my artist is always like, you don't really get a choice in how big you get it. So it's palm-sized. He's like, any smaller and it would look stupid. Okay. But I've got these on my forearms.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I, we have matching. The fox tattoos are matching. His has a black flower and mine has the blue one. I don't really talk about this tattoo. I got it because I love the music of an artist who it's really unpopular to like right now.
Okay.
I mean, it's fine. It's Ryan Adams. Everybody hates Ryan Adams. I did not get this after everything came out about him. I had it before, but people still look at me like I'm dirty. And I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? It goes from my wrist to my elbow crease. You want me to just get a big blue blob over these really beautiful flowers? No.
I do remember this one because you had said something on social about it after I've kind of forgotten about his deal, but yeah, after the stuff happened with him, what does it say?
It says "Let It Ride."
Hmm.
It's one of his songs, and I mean, it's like at the end of the day, the sentiment is still great. The artwork is beautiful. I love the little horseshoe in the middle, and it's still a great piece of work, even if you don't like the person that it was inspired by. Also, it's my body. You know, people can feel however they want to about it.
Sure.
I'm not telling you have to support what he does or go out and buy his records. That's, but I think a lot of people have issues separating when somebody is canceled in cancel culture. It's like every shred of their being has to be removed. And it's like, well, this human being influenced me for the better part of like a decade and a half. So I have a tattoo, and I'm sorry if it bothers you, but I think it's pretty. I really like it.
Well, it's good to be able to still like it. It is the peril of tattoos of those kind, I guess. But
yeah, like it's not like a portrait of him, like it's not like his face on my arm, and that would be a difference. I would feel really weird about that. I think actually, for a lot of reasons, I'd feel weird about myself if I got anybody's face but my horse's tattooed on me. And then my arm is, like covered by this flannel, but my most like recent completed thing is I have like a half sleeve now on my left arm from my shoulder cap to my left elbow of like a desert scene, like a big blood red moon and a howling coyote and a hawk and a bunch of cacti and a cattle skull. And I think it's really cool.
I don't know how they fit all that on that dainty little arm of yours.
Carefully. My tattoo artist is great. Yeah, carefully.
Yeah, they look great. I don't have any, so I'm not super into the whole tattoo culture, but I definitely can appreciate a nice one and notice a bad one, but they look nice. So thanks for sharing about them. And
yeah, got a lot more than that, but we'll be here for like 45 minutes. So
so I'm sure, I don't know if there are any pictures or if they're inappropriate to share, but I'm sure my wife, who loves horses, would love to see the one that you have on your thigh. She'd kind of be like, whoa. She doesn't have any tattoos either, but.
Oh, sure. I have like on my social media, I think there are a couple of pictures where you can see the on Instagram, you can see the Rowan tattoo.
Okay, I'll go looking for them. If I can't find them, I'll ping you and say, hey, where's the one?
I actually pulled, okay. Impulse control issues. I played a house concert series in Mississippi after most of the guests had left, and it was just, me and the band and the host and a few other stragglers hanging around. I was talking to one of the women about tattoos and just straight up pulled my pants down in front of a group of people to show them my tattoo. So obviously I am easily embarrassed and very bashful.
I'm sure it was a memorable part of the evening for them.
Yeah, look, I mean.
And then she pulled her pants down. That's great. Okay, about the video, I wanted to mention just morbid curiosity. I don't know if that qualifies, but you did a demo and review for a Taylor 816 CE Grand Symphony Builder's Edition. How did that come about? Have you done that kind of thing before?
Yeah, but not with acoustic guitars, really. Mostly back in the, not like video reviews, but I've done like some review work back in the day when I was doing a lot of fiddle stuff for kind of like the touring, like outlaw country guys. I would get sent various stuff to like test and review, but I went to do like bass demos and an interview about my bass, and Ben, the manager at that Bailey Brothers location, was like, so you write your songs on an acoustic? And I was like, yep. And he was like, so we want a songwriter, like an actual like musician, to demo out some of these acoustic Taylors. Like, you can pick which one. Would you mind doing that? And I was like, no, not at all. And I don't really consider myself a guitar player, but I finger pick pretty well. And that was how that came about. He was like, we just need somebody to do this while you're here. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah.
Nice. Well, actually, to credit your playing, I was watching it and I was looking at some other stuff, going over some notes. So I went off the screen, but I was listening to it. It was quite nice. Yep. I liked it. Wow. That's my questions, man. You know what? I'm going to talk about one more thing that I forgot about and then let you get onto your wine drinking or whatever you're going to do.
Yoga,
Uh,
maybe at the same time, maybe, I don't know what order. It could get interesting.
so, not too long ago, and another recording that we did, you and I, not music, but it sounded like a setup for a music recording, but I recorded a conversation of us that involves a survey that I've been doing for the second edition of a book I published a few years ago. And so you were kind enough to participate. And I was hoping that we could. It's so funny. I had time to do this. Did I do it before we actually got on the call? No, but I'm going to pick a question here because I think this, the opening question I recall was pretty good. Looking at your reply, and I'm gonna read the notes that I took down, so it's paraphrasing. But I asked you, what do you think the number one reason that other musicians struggle to get good gigs? And to which you said, well, when people get started, they're just super happy to play, so they pigeonhole themselves into gigs that may not pay enough. And you left with the suggestion, don't move on. Oh, I think this was just a short note of mine. They kind of get stuck and don't move on toward growth opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I see it a lot. So it's super easy to talk about. I think a lot of musicians who do even like write original music or put out original like LPs or EPs, especially in the Southeast, have to kind of start taking cover gigs too, or they take like gigs that are like 4 hours long and they mix in originals with covers, and then those pay X amount of money. And it seems like a good deal. It seems like a good sum of money at the time because you're just getting started. But then instead of trying to continue to expand their original catalog and like get like opening slots for nationally touring bands or like go on small runs of shows where maybe the money is equal to their cover gig but not close to home, so that they can eventually start building like name recognition, marquee value, and tour is not the way to do it anymore. But like when you could tour, like before this year, you had to at least have some road dates, as well as the press and the material and the assets. And it's a lot of work, and I think that people just don't know how much work it is when they get into it. And when something doesn't fall into their lap, they go, well, obviously I just need to keep playing at Dan's Bar and Grill and somebody will pick me up. And then 5, 10, 15 years later, still playing every Thursday at Dan's Bar and Grill and wondering why the hell they didn't have a real career. And they're still playing for $100 for 4 hours and bringing their own PA. And it's like, all you have to do is ask Dan for 50 more bucks. It's like, and then go play somewhere else on a Thursday. It's, yeah. I'm not, trying to crap on people who have recurring like house gigs. That's not what I'm doing. It's the people who really want more, who say they want more, who want a real career, who really want to make it, who want to tour nationally, and they don't want to do the legwork in between the Dan's Bar and Grill gig and the arenas.
I wonder if you have this facet to your personality that you alluded to a little while ago that you're not, you were being sarcastic and said, I'm obviously easily embarrassed, which I know you're not. And I wonder how much that unabashed, I don't care if I look silly or sound silly. I'm going to go do this and I'm going to be good at it, or I'm going to try, I might, maybe you walk out on a limb sometimes, but it's worth it to you. And so I wonder, for people, that's probably an obstacle for a lot of what you're describing in others. Do you have any suggestions?
I'm not, it's interesting to think about. It's like, I'm a horse girl. I've ridden horses my whole life. I'm not afraid to fall. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just not. That's the thing that's always instilled. You hear it's like you fall, you get back up, and it's true. And I feel like I think it'd be beneficial for a lot of people if they could just, and this is going to sound so rude and it's going to sound so just harsh, but I think a lot of people need to get over themselves.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's true.
Like a little wet bee flying around, so I'm dancing. But yeah, I think a lot of people just need to you got to get over that a little bit. You have to develop a little bit of a thicker skin, because the music business, and I mean, I don't have to tell you this, it sucks. It's mean. I've cried a lot, and I'm not a crier. And like, I'll go ahead and admit, I've cried. I've cried a lot. I've cried over crappy reviews. I've cried over not getting certain gigs. I've cried over not feeling included. I've cried over mediocre press. I've, like, out of frustration. But what I do with that is I don't go back to Dan's Bar and Grill. I, channel it forward instead of shrinking away. Because it's not going to be nice. This business is not nice. We can be nice to each other.
Yeah.
We kind of have to be.
Right.
But I think that, some people miss that memo. So.
Yeah. I don't have this conversation enough, I think. But your fellow Alabaman, is that the way to say it? Abe Partridge was saying the same thing earlier today when I spoke to him, that, well, he said it in a different fashion, but it alludes to the same deal. He said that he has had to hear the word no so many times in his career.
Yeah. But for every 40 no's, you get a yes, and that yes is the next step. And I think you can't quit after the first 10 no's.
Yeah.
But
Sylvia Rose, thank you for spending time with me and doing it outdoors. It was kind of fun to watch you swat at bees and to listen to the bird and all the other stuff.
Thank you. This was fun.
Cool. Well, I hope your yoga is awesome, relaxing.
Yes, I hope this bee leaves me alone.
And may whatever bottle of wine you're opening or finishing this evening be incredible.
You have a great night too.
All right. I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I have been asking you to check out my new single, On Top of the World, available wherever you get your music, including Robonzo.com, my artist website. You can also find the new lyric video at Robonzo.com. On Top of the World was released January 8th, 2021, and, well, I'm still excited about it. So I hope you'll check it out. But now I'm crazy excited to tell you that you can stream my forthcoming single, New Gods Part 2, on Tracked Music for iPhone. It is the exclusive streaming platform where you can check out New Gods Part 2. It's my personal homage to, yes, Zeppelin, Genesis, and prog rock, with a bit of commentary on the world we live in. I hope you like it. Again, you can hear it on Tracked Music, the app for iPhone, or on trackedmusic.com, and that's TRACKD, no E, trackedmusic.com. Link in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. If you loved this episode, please subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast/audio platform. It'll help you stay on top of the latest episodes and help other indie musicians and indie music fans find the podcast. And if you have feedback, please go to unstarvingmusician.com to get all my contact info. You can text me, call me, email me, leave a voice message right there on that page. Just go down to the bottom of the page and you'll find everything you need to know. I really would love to hear any of your comments, suggestions, questions, whatever you've got. And you can find links to just about everything talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. All right, I'm peacing out. Thank you for listening and sharing with your musician friends and fellow indie music fans. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.